Hi, my name is Christine Martin. I am the curator here at the historic Charles Clark Chateau. This week, with everything being closed to the public, we've decided to give a tour of the building online. Uh, this is just going to be a brief overview of the history of the Charles Clark Chateau. Um, and then later on, we're going to record a full tour of the house and talk about some of its architectural features and some of the furniture that we have on loan from the Paul Clark home, and some talk about the history a little bit more in depth. But today I'm just going to give you a brief overview. So I'm just going to get started, and I did bring my notes because I didn't want to get anything wrong. So for those that have never been here, and you should when we reopen, the Clark Chateau was built by copper magnate William A. Clark. It was a wedding gift for his oldest son Charles and his wife Catherine. The younger Clarks had gone on a tour of Europe for their honeymoon, and they were very impressed with the chateaus of France. So this building is actually a kind of 1/6 of a chateau that they saw in France. It's really just one wing, and so the Clark Chateau is quite large. Actually, it's 4 floors. We have 26 rooms. We have 7 fireplaces. We have 3 pianos, and the very top floor is a ballroom. So we have quite a bit of space for all of the events that we hold here in the building. And so construction for this building started in 1898. Clark hired William S. Aldrich, and he worked on this house for 2 years. So construction started in 1898 and finished in 1900. And the sad thing was depending on your perspective, the sad thing was that the Clarks didn't live here for very long at all. The Clarks were gone by 1903. So really the Clarks are only responsible for the construction of this property, and hence why we call it, the Charles Clark Chateau. They were known for a lot of entertaining here. They held lavish parties. There was originally a bowling alley in the first floor, which we know all about because there were newspaper articles in the day talking about the bowling that was going on. They hosted recitals. They hosted the Homer Club on a regular basis. But Charles got in trouble for he got into a little bit of legal trouble, and he moved to California in 1903. He was accused of attempting to bribe a judge in a mining lawsuit, and so he fled to California. And his wife Catherine actually traveled to New York, where she died due to complications of a long-time disease, which we've often thought might have been diabetes. So the Clarks left pretty early, and they didn't have any children. And if you followed the news about the Clarks at all, the final Clark heir, Huguette, only passed away very recently in New York City, and she was 105, and she would have been the very last of, the main Clark heirs. She was the last of the Clark children. So Clark history, as far as Charles and Catherine go, was really pretty brief here in this building. After the Clarks, the house was sold to Pat Wall in 1906. He was a mining investor here in East Butte. He sold it to Creighton Largy, who was the son of murdered banker and merchant Patrick Largy. And if the Largy name sounds familiar to you, just know that the elder Largy owned what is now a restaurant, but it's where Metals Bank is. He was the owner of that property. It also was connected to a very tragic warehouse fire here in town that is quite well known. The Largys really wanted to have a home where they could do a lot of entertaining. His wife is who we talk about a lot. Um, and so we talk about Ursula Largi quite a bit in this house, and I'll go into more detail about that when I do a full tour on the second floor. But Ursula did quite a bit of entertaining. She's responsible for our hand painted rooms in the building, and she also is responsible for entertaining the composer of our Montana State song here. And the Montana State song was actually written in the Clark Chateau in our ballroom. And so it's a really fun piece of Butte history. And we were actually able to host a music historian not too long ago, Cece Otto, and she was so excited to get to perform the Montana State song in the room in which it was written. And there are clips of that online. After the Largis moved on, in 1915, James A. Murray purchased the house. And hopefully I won't mix this up, because there are two very important Murrays to this building. There's James A. Murray and James E. Murray. James A. Murray was kind of an eccentric Irish millionaire. He lived in Butte. He's a lifelong bachelor. And James E. Murray, who inherited the house from him later on and did live here with his family, was a longtime U.S. Senator here in Butte. So when James purchased the house, the first one in 1915, he never lived here. He didn't treat it as a home. He leased the building, in fact. And so for a period of time, the Clark Chateau became the Butte College of Music. It was the Butte College of Music from 1917 to about 1919. They offered lessons in voice, piano, and stringed instruments. His nephews, James E. Murray and Viola Murray, and their 6 sons moved into the house in 1928. And so this is later, after he had passed. He had left it to them. And so the family really just lived here until 1945, and then this house was sold. And really, the Murrays are important to note for the many contributions to, Butte and also Montana history in general. But the Murray family, in this context, it's the last time a family lived in this home, and it's really the beginning of when it became a full-time institution. So in 1949, the Shriners bought the building. The Shriners occupied the building for quite a long time. They called it the Fez Club, and they kind of treated it like, an Elks Lodge. It was a meeting house. Everybody got married here. There were parties and fundraisers held here. A lot of community events were held in the space, and different Shriners activities. In 1977, it was purchased by the Silverbow Bicentennial Committee, and it was sold to the city of Butte for the use as an art center and museum. And now the Clark Chateau is owned by the Butte government and is operated by the Butte Silverbow Public Archives in partnership with a local nonprofit, the Root and Bloom Collective. And so now we coordinate all of the activities here. So as the curator, my job is to be caretaker of the building. Carrie Coe is our program director, and then we liaise with the nonprofit, and that is why we have so many great events here at the museum. Youth programs and readings and plays. We have our visiting writers series, the Ballroom Players. A lot of really exciting things happen here in Butte, and we hope to continue to bring you some of those things online in the coming weeks until things kind of get back to normal. So stay tuned to our YouTube channel for more history talks, and of course, if you guys have any questions, please leave a comment and we'll try to respond. Thank you.